Yes, we are ready for the clash. Hello Mattia, hello everyone. Herkese merhaba. Have a nice day. We are online at Sustainable Brands Turkey. I'm journalist and author Oben Budak, and I have a special guest from Italy. Everybody knows him from Mattia's Table account. He loves exploring culinary traditions around the world. He says meatless food from the planet and for the planet. Hello, Mattia. I very like you because you never use meats in your recipe.
Hi, Oben. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm really happy to be here to get into this this little chat that we're about to have.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sustainable food is a growing trend, as you know. The way we produce our food is having a profound effect on the health of our soil and the food which is cultivated, actually. Pesticides and insecticides are now known to be contributing to declining pollinator populations and increases in food intolerances. Is sustainability just a trend or it is really necessary? I was confused sometimes.
Right. I think sustainability is absolutely a trend, but that doesn't make it not necessary. I think the fact that it is, in my view, absolutely necessary. I think small actions can and will make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. Is really helped by the fact that it's also seen as a bit of a trend these days. You mentioned a few seconds ago that I say of myself that I'm meatless for the planet and from the planet. I don't eat meat. I occasionally still eat fish, and I still do enjoy some animal products like cheese and milk and whatnot. But I think giving up meat is one of the many small steps that we can take in the direction of sustainability, food-wise, that is.
Yeah, it's only starting, actually. When I go to new country for a vacation, I love hanging out like a local. I prefer to visit neighborhood bars rather than famous restaurants always. I also support local in the city which I live in. Currently living in Athens, I prefer Greek wines, or I go to the street market every Saturday and buy veggies from the Greek producers. I think I'm doing a good thing in that sense. Why is it important to shop and eat local?
I think you're doing a good thing too. I also go to the market on Saturdays and try to get locally grown and cultivated ingredients, fruits and veggies. I think it's very important. It links with the first question you asked me. It is a sustainable practice for sure.
Yeah.
Because for once, it cuts the carbon emissions that it would normally take to get an ingredient at a big chain supermarket, or in that sense, getting it from a grocer that cultivated the zucchini 2 kilometers away from where you're getting it definitely cuts carbon emissions. At the same time, food that is cultivated locally tastes better and has more nutritional value. It doesn't lose vitamins and minerals and other important stuff that otherwise gets lost if it takes too much time from the ground to the plate. So that's definitely something to take into account too, for why it's better to eat local.
Yeah, you said you go to the street markets for fresh vegetables. What steps do you take to ensure your ingredients are source sustainability?
Yeah, no, well, as I said, I go to the market on Saturdays. I try to plan the content that I make on Thursdays or Fridays so that I go on Saturday, I go to the market for the week and get the vegetables I need and for my work, essentially. And other steps that I take is, as you know for sure, I don't know if the viewers know, but I like to explore foods from the world other than just being meatless. I also like to explore food from culinary cultures all over. And sometimes ethnic foods just simply can't be grown or sourced in Europe. So I have to go to the Asian grocery store or the South American grocery store. And in doing that, I try to be sustainable in that I try to go to small grocers, to small businesses, to, in a way, for veggies and fruits that can be grown locally. I still try to support small businesses, the local economy, and do all of that side stuff that still has an impact, in my opinion.
Yeah, you have an account that is well known on Instagram and TikTok, Mattia's Table, and you're also try the ethnic foods for culture clash, as you said. In my point, we must start to recognize and appreciate what it takes to grow, produce, and transport to ingredients that we often take for granted. This understanding can lead to a shift towards more mindful food choices that prioritize sustainable practices, such as local and seasonal sourcing, reducing food miles, and supporting regenerative agriculture. Most of your followers are very young, and their ideas are more important for us because if the world can change, they will make it happen. Sustainability means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. With millennials increasingly spending their money on more ethical products and services, does this signal to the end to of the super chef era?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned my followers mostly are aged 18 to 35. So it's a big chunk of the population that isn't yet making decisions for the world, but will be eventually. I do feel that there is a bit of a responsibility on my part to promote this kind of sustainable, meatless behavior when it comes to making meals. I think I'm not trying to change a person's view on their diet. I'm only trying to give an idea for maybe for one day someone who does eat meat can decide, oh, that looks really tasty. I'm gonna have that for dinner instead of having steak. And that's again going back to my motto essentially, which is that small actions matter. You mentioned the super chef era. I think a lot is changing in the restaurant business. I'm not personally in the restaurant business, but I do think that there's been a trend where restaurants are becoming more successful when they try to be as sustainable as possible, offering local ingredients, locally sourced produce, following the seasonality of vegetables and ingredients, like you mentioned in your question. So yeah, I think the super chef era, as you called it, is definitely coming to an end a little bit because we're becoming more mindful of the things that matter when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, being mindful is really important, like we talked.
Key. Yeah.
And when people ask me, what can I do to eat more sustainability, I say to them, you should quit meat, or you can turn to be a vegan. It's well established that vegan diets have the smallest carbon footprint. It's equally established that when you tell people to eat, go vegan, they simply do not do it. Actually, you know that. Globally, meat consumption has only increased day by day. Of course, it has to be changed, but if a person can't manage to be vegan, because it's not easy at the beginning, I know, how can we be more sustainable in our homes?
Well, I think, you have an example right here of someone who is not vegan, because I personally think that it's a hard step to make. As you said, it's not easy to be vegan, eating meat one day and being vegan the next day. But again, I think it's about the small things. Unfortunately, it's about the small things, and small things collectively will make a big difference, hopefully. I think what I try to do is offer this type of an alternative to simply the two polar opposites, which are eating meat multiple times a week and being completely vegan. And so I think it's very important to allocate maybe a day or two a week where you avoid eating meat altogether, or maybe do one day where you try to eat a vegan meal, the next day you eat a vegetarian meal, the day after you'll eat meat, because no one is expected to give up meat from one day to the other. It's still a personal choice, and it will always be a personal choice. But I think the more time goes on, the more it becomes important to make these kinds of decisions, having our future in mind, essentially.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's very difficult to be directly vegan. I gave up poultry first, and then quit red meat after 6 months. I lived as a vegetarian for 10 years. I've been vegan for the last 3 years, actually. It wasn't easy for me to get used to do this mentality, actually, but we should start somewhere, actually.
I agree.
Anyways, I wanna talk about you with the food waste. Actually, how does food waste affect sustainability?
I think this one is a bit of a misconception, because we tend to think that food waste, if I'm throwing away a bit of food, it's biodegradable, compostable, so it's just going to biodegrade into the environment and it has no effect. I think it actually has a massive impact. Instead, it's one of the practices that really has an impact on climate change, because by throwing food away, you're essentially throwing away the work that goes into it and the resources that go into producing that food. When we were talking about these questions, we made the example that obviously you throwing half a banana away because it's turned brown, and a massive fast food chain restaurant throwing tons of food away every day is not the same thing. But unfortunately, the only thing we can control is our own kitchen. And so in that sense, it goes back to the motto, which is that small things matter. And if we all collectively decide to make these small changes and be more mindful about food waste in this case, it might eventually and hopefully make an impact, have an effect.
You have time for the making compost, because you are traveling all around the world in this year. I know that. That's why I'm asking. Do you have time for this?
Oh, it's. I mean, in Italy, there's very strict laws about recycling, so there is really no choice, which is a really good thing. I think it's you can't, you get fined very heavily if you don't recycle properly. So in that sense, yes, it's I'm being careful. That doesn't take away from the fact that I could be throwing away entire meals in the compost and still be considered within the law. So
yeah. It's necessary actually. I really can't eat things that look like parts of an animal, plant-based versions of shrimp, squid, and chicken wings have been released. You know that. Of course, I ate burger when I am hangover, but otherwise, I don't need them. What do you think about the new wave of the plant-based foods? I mean, taste-wise.
I think taste-wise, plant-based food that resemble meat is really getting closer and closer to the real thing. I think it's an amazing feat of technology, the fact that we're able to have a burger that almost tastes like a beef burger. The thing I'm confronted with online often is when I use a meatless or a plant-based product like mincemeat, or usually is mincemeat. Meat in air quotes, obviously. Plant-based mincemeat. People ask me why, if I'm meatless, do I have the need to eat something that resembles meat and that looks like meat? And I think most, if not all, vegetarians and vegans agree with the fact that meat does taste nice. The choice of not eating it is a choice based on other factors, not because we don't like it. It's because we try to reduce our carbon footprint or the well-being of animals. And so I think it's great that we have the opportunity to still make meals that ask for like a lasagna with a ragu alla bolognese. I can make that with plant-based meat now. So that's really good. I think then when it comes to whether or not the meat looks like an animal part, it doesn't affect me personally. I don't often eat these foods, but it wouldn't bother me as much as maybe it bothers you from the looks of things.
Yeah, because of the looks. I think those products are an ideal choice for those who are trying to quit meat. That's all. But taste-wise, it's growing so fast. Actually, it's going up. It's more tasty. When I started the vegan life, it was not like that. But it's okay now. I can appreciate for this. Anyways, lastly, we time's up. Actually, do you believe restaurateurs and chefs are doing enough to shake the section up to sustainability standards? What do you think about it?
I think so. I think we mentioned earlier about the restaurant business being more and more prone to sustainable choices. And I think that's a growing trend, and it brings more customers in. So it's a trend that also helps restaurants be more popular. So it's a win-win situation. I can't speak to that with full certainty because I'm not, I don't own a restaurant or work in a restaurant. From my side of things, from the social media side of things, food is an incredibly big part of social media. You might have noticed if you're on social media too. And I think creators like myself, more and more of us are emerging and gaining a bit of popularity by promoting either a vegetarian, a vegan, or just making sustainable choices. For example, by being meatless in my case. And I think this trend is only becoming bigger and bigger because people are interested in becoming more sustainable themselves. So to your question, it's a resounding yes, in my opinion. I think the industry is changing. The sector is being shaken up by restaurants and chefs and cooks on the internet and in real life.
Yeah, I believe the young guns, young people, actually, they will change for something. actually. Thank you very much for this publication. Our time is up. I wish you a greenery days from Istanbul. Do you want to say something, Leslie?
It was really a pleasure and a very interesting experience. And doing it online, it's never the best, but it's what we have, and it was a real pleasure talking to you, Oben.
For me too.
And have a good one too.
Thank you, Mattia.
Thank you.
I hope to see you somewhere in the world. You should come to Istanbul.
I plan on coming to Istanbul.
Yeah, perfect. See you. Thank you for everything.